Hello, and welcome to Mornings with Joel, commercial real estate podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace. I wanted to have this meeting today, and as you know, our special guest is Njeri, one of our own, if you will, and we're very, very excited to have her here. She's been really responsible behind the scenes in supporting this podcast, which we're really grateful for. She also has been just a source of inspiration for so many of the REAP students. You know, it's amazing because REAP is all about, at least in my mind, transition. You know, going from this is where I am today, this is where I want to be, and putting those resources together to get to where you want to be in the long run. When we see individuals in REAP take those steps, it's quite impressive, it's admirable, and we like to applaud that effort and encourage it because everybody wins when that happens. You know, when we have more exposure in the marketplace, diversity, and so many other things. So, and Njeri, wanted to thank you. You've had a major milestone that you've been able to achieve, and we're very happy to have you here today. And thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's do this just to kind of start off. You know, everybody pretty much in REAP is familiar with you for the most part, but a lot of them probably don't know your background and how you started off. And actually, your background had nothing to do with real estate at all. So if you don't mind, share a little bit of that with us.
You know what, Joel? That's actually not the truth.
Okay, cool. But see, that's now we get to the real deal.
There's so much to unpack there, right? My background actually kind of did start in real estate. My mother was a commercial agent, a residential and commercial agent.
Okay.
So I kind of, people are like, well, what was your first exposure to real estate? My first exposure was going to open houses on Sundays with my mom and going on caravans, which I love because it was like, man, we're going to stop at a house, look at all this great stuff and eat cookies. Fantastic.
Eat food.
Yeah, eat food. You know, as a kid, it's like, oh no, this is great. We get back in the car, go to another house, eat some more. It's fun. So that was my first exposure to real estate just altogether, but I didn't get involved in it, you know, with my mom. It didn't have a sway for me to actually be in the business. The family business actually was one of my father's. My father was a professor at University of Texas, but one of his, you know, legacy projects was a radio station.
Okay.
And it's KAZI 88.7 in Austin, Texas. It's still in existence, a community radio station. And so the family poured their heart into the business and into the community. So one of the first things I got to do, 13 years old, was be a disc jockey.
Wow. At 13?
Yeah. At 13, I'm on the air, my own show, me and my brother, teen scene. But we, you know, my parents, of course, held us really responsible. We had to bring rap and hip hop to a community that was only doing old school rock, you know, classic rock. So it just really blew up the whole community because, you know, that was the popular music at that time. And no one had really had the exposure to it. No one was putting it out there on the airwaves because that just wasn't the popular market. So I started being a disc jockey at 13 years old while running track in school. And I was actually, that transformed into disc jockeying into nightclubs as well, parties and nightclubs.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So
I was disc jockeying in parties and nightclubs before I was old enough to even be in there.
Wow.
But, you know, we came in before everybody else. Nobody ever pays attention to the DJ until something goes wrong in the booth.
Right.
But, you know, we had our routine down pat. And so I, you know, went from that and stayed in radio, television, and film. And actually in 2017, left a 30-year career in media.
Okay.
Actually, because I came to Atlanta, worked for CNN, and I've been with CNN in management and technology training. And that, gosh, marketing, very vast career there. So really, really, really wanting to get back to a dream that I had because, if you're doing something for a long time and you're not happy about doing it, people, ask you, so what did you want to be when you grew up? And the answer was clear for me. I wanted to be an architect.
Okay.
I wanted to be an architect. I loved what my mother was doing, but I loved the building part of it. I loved the rooms, I loved the structure, I loved the design. And so it was really clear for me. So it was taking this massive ship, this cruise line of a life that I had developed and turning it. And, you can't just turn a cruise liner, right? You can't just take a hard left. You got to make incremental changes. So that's what I just started doing, is making those incremental changes. But I made them incrementally in the midst of, actually a lot of loss. Lost my mom and my grandmother, like within a year's time. But I knew my life had to change because not only was I in grief, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I didn't have that joy. So it's like, okay, I gotta do this. It's like, and the stress of it all what got to me. And the doctor said, you got to change your life or you're out of here.
Yeah.
The stress is too much. So people are like, well, how hard was the choice? Like, change or die. Let me think. Let me think.
Not too hard, huh?
Not too hard of a choice. Not too hard of a choice. Yeah. So I said, let's take a deep dive into what we really want to do. Let's look at real estate. Let's look at, not just look at it, but do more than what we've been doing. Because I had bought some houses, flipped a couple of houses, had some buy and holds with my husband at the time, was married. And I was like, okay, we're going to just turn the ship completely. We're going to keep making the rest of these incremental changes. And man, after that, it just, it's kind of like going from the edges of a moving river where it's not moving real fast to the middle where it's just carrying you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I ended up kind of here, got a chance to get exposed to Quinn Green, who told me about REAP, got a chance to get involved in REAP. And I didn't know how vast the rabbit hole went, but I went from, okay, I'm going to learn everything that there is to know to going, there is no way I'm going to learn everything there is to know. Right?
Yeah, it's way too verse of a market, that's for sure. You got to pick your niche and kind of go with it.
Well, that was, what brings us to this opportunity because, having exposure to residential, knowing and being advised to get into commercial, just really wanting to find my niche, right? Fast forward to being on these calls with you and listening to all the exposure and all the people and all the contributions week after week after week. And then you brought Willie on, Willie Akron, right?
Yep. Yeah, but let's talk about that because it's an interesting dynamic, as to how you went from, I just want to get a little bit of knowledge. And then, as we were kind of mentioning before the call, you kind of get into a space where you say, okay, I can't learn all of this. I can't do all of it. But let me figure out what feels right for me and kind of go with that and see if I can pursue that. Oftentimes, taking little bits and pieces of what your goal is and trying to, it's the old story of eating an elephant, right? One piece at a time. So you take that little piece down. It was interesting because we're always trying to bring people of value, to the discourse and to the podcast so everybody, can get something from it. We often ask, what do you guys want to hear about so we can bring those type of guests on. And I thought the Willie situation was good because, and we'll have that podcast available, but he had, and I was part of this, seeing this girl go from a gym counselor at a elementary school to being retired in it was like 3 or 4 years. It was unbelievable with passive income of over $300,000 a year. And it's like, what? How did one of that? And I know how it happened because I did it. Right? I did the fundraising for it. So, I thought it was just an amazing story. And, this woman happens to, she's physically disabled, so she gets that support from the government. But, generally when you have someone like that, the fear is even greater, because it's like, well, I have this disability, people aren't going to listen to me. And I asked her about even being on this call, and she was like, no, I can't do that, just because she's not fluent in the way she speaks and all of that, but she's getting it done. And so I thought it was great to have Willie on. What do you think about that Willie podcast really touched you and moved you to action?
Yeah, so I heard the story, I was in touch with it, and it moved me. And then for whatever reason, I'm trying to really kind of go back and think, actually, Will and it hit later. When he began to talk about the model, my mind just started doing math right away. And the whole thing, it just went kerthunk. And I know, I've sat on a lot of these calls and I'm just quiet like everybody else. And they're like, but when Willie started talking and it hit for me, all the questions started to drop. And Joel, it was funny because I kept interrupting and I never do. And I'm like, okay, we're going to take this offline. And I was like, Joel, make sure I get his information. Joel, make sure I get in contact with him. And Joel was like, okay, yeah, easy.
Yeah, chill out. I got you.
Right. We were 20 minutes in, but it just, like I said, when you're looking for your niche and, you're doing what you need to do in the business, but that hit, like a ton of bricks. And in a later conversation with Willie, he asked me, he said, well, so what is it about this that really works for you? And I said, I just kind of did a deep dive spiritually for a second. I said, I'm a proponent for small business. I'm a proponent for entrepreneurship. It's just something for me that has resonated well. Like my parents built the radio station to have a voice for the community, but it was nonprofit. And I remember having an argument with my parents going, we could help the community so much more with commercial revenue and ad revenue. That could be, they're like, no, it's got to be this. Like, okay. But for me, I'm a little more, my parents were a civil rights household. So it was kind of, we had a lot of Malcolm X, a lot of MLK, and I was a little more on the Malcolm X side. I was like, we need some revenue changes. Right. I was like, by any means necessary, includes money. So for me, in all of my learning about it, because I got a degree in African American Studies, one of the things that was most important is that people have access to money, and not just through jobs and money that people give them, but be able to create their own money. And I was really impacted by the history of a lot of our businesses being burned down and people run out of town and run out of business and really stripped of their opportunities for that kind of freedom. Because freedom just being free, and then there's the freedom to live life the way you want to.
Sure.
So entrepreneurship for me gives people the opportunity to create their own freedom and their lives the way they want to. So that's major for me. And that's the legacy I want to leave.
Gotcha. So that's really what came out of you when you dug deep and saw the value of this. You kind of, I guess, saw yourself in that stream of time. Hey, I can create this for myself and then teach others and help them, which is a powerful thing. That's, I think, one thing that we have in common, which is why we get along so well, is we kind of want the same thing. We want to see small businesses thrive and achieve. I know one big thing that I was a zealot for many, many years was financial literacy and helping minority communities build generational wealth. And the best way to do that is real estate, when you look at it. And to me, it's so important because you have a dichotomy of situations where if you're always begging somebody else for money and for federal programs and for handouts and everything else, you're always going to be disrespected.
Yeah.
So it's like, here you come begging again for money. Here you come. You want this from me again. I work hard. I made mine, and now I got to give part of it to you. And you're always going to have that division of people. And in order to have that same respect, it's when you can move in next door to that person that was looking down at you.
That's right.
When you can actually, when they admire, what you're doing out there, or that, not necessarily material things, but, sometimes it's the car or the this or the that, because we tend to get too wrapped up, I think, on material things, but it's really building value, and creating an environment where you have that family bank, where the family can be self-sustained and fund the next generation's projects. So you see, I can get off on a soapbox on this, but this is...
Oh, no, why are you playing? You want to talk about power? How about you hold the mortgage of the house that they live in? That's power.
Exactly. So, no, it all plays into that. So I'm glad you were able to share with us how, that part of it really, really hits you. One thing I want to say, and I mention of this every week, James, Cassandra, Mahalia, William, all of y'all, if you want to participate, raise your hand, ask any questions that you have. this is for you guys. It's not just for me and Njeri. So feel free to, participate in any way you can as we kind of go through this. So, but we appreciate you being here. So going forward, so you got a chance to hook up with Willie. What would you say happened next? What was the next big thing?
Oh, yeah. So, we had a short conversation. I pestered him with all the questions that I had from the call. And he was like, well, I really need to show you this. I really need to show you the models that we've already got done. They're already working. I was like, so what day do you have available this week? Mm-hmm. So we actually connected that week. He gave me some addresses, let me in a couple buildings, gave me some addresses, and I immediately started to walk through, look at the structure, do the math in my head. We, had a lot of conversations about, how the leases worked and how the relationship with the clients worked and the deals that he'd done before, just really ran through a lot of that. And then I think after that, maybe first meeting, I was like, all right, let's find me a deal. Mm-hmm. And that's really kind of how that went. And I think he came up with a deal for me that next week. Mm. Yeah, that next week we started looking at opportunities.
Yeah. So fast forward, you found this particular opportunity on the South Side, and what made you decide that this was the one? Why did you decide to move forward with that particular opportunity?
So this is in Stockbridge Road in Jonesboro. There were a lot of things that immediately jumped out for me. Having done rehabs and worked with contractors, doing rehabs, there's a few aesthetic things that jumped out immediately. Mm-hmm. One, the building had a new roof. I was like, okay, we're going gangbusters there. New roof, and it was already renovated. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, we're on top right here already. Mm-hmm. This building has already been gutted, renovated, and then the quality, I'm a stickler for details. So I'm looking in tight corners, I'm looking straight up, I'm like looking at angles and lines and, quality and that sort of thing. And it was all there. The renovation, this building was 70% renovated completely. The landscaping was tight. The finished work was really great. And everything was clean. And I was like, okay, so this already has, 90% of what I need. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is, okay, let's talk numbers. The other great thing was that it's in Jonesboro. It's, outside the city. And I know a lot of people were moving out to these areas because it's more affordable. Mm-hmm. During COVID. People are still needing opportunities to have offices. And that was the other thing. The building was the available and already built out offices already had existing leases. I'm like, okay, we already have money coming in. We don't have enough of it, but we have some, so we've got revenue to work with. We're not starting from scratch and knocking down this and tearing this out. We're actually just adding additional office spaces. That was it. So that was an immediate draw for me. The city of Jonesboro, it is a nice, neat little Main Street area. So this particular office building is right off downtown Jonesboro. It's like, it's one side street. It was close to the courthouse. It was close to, it was walking distance to the courthouse, as a matter of fact. And I knew Jonesboro was a growing market, people moving out there. That was kind of it. It was just kind of close to what was going on. It was really cool too, because I was going there and I turned the corner and I saw Slutty Vegan. I was like, oh, okay, I got family in town. And I'm like, all right, that's another good sign, because, that's one of the things about new businesses. They're moving into markets where, markets are underserved. And I'm like, I got it. Yeah.
No, beautiful. So you're right. When you look at this particular property, it had, we always like to say, good bones, and so, one thing when you size up a real estate deal, I think you made a very good point there. It already had cash flow. So you already have some support in order to service the debt while you're trying to turn it around. The place was clean, well established, kept nice and neat, which says a lot for the ownership of the building and the people that are currently in there. Talk to me a little bit about the business model. Why did you think that this model would be good for this particular location? Because you talk to most people about office space during this pandemic, and they're running the opposite direction. They're saying the last thing you want to buy is an office building. Mm-hmm. So why would you look at buying an office building? What was unique about this situation?
Well, what we found was interesting is that there are essential businesses during COVID, and the essential businesses have just blown up. There are a lot of businesses, that have gone under, but a lot of businesses in COVID and a lot of entrepreneurs in COVID have gone gangbusters. So there is still a need for space. There's a need for occasional space. There's a need for technical space where people are like, I just need a physical address because I am a, small house entrepreneur. I've got 5 people working for me. 4 of them are on the road. I just need a place for somebody to go sit. The way we've got it structured, they're private offices where you're not necessarily interacting with people a lot. And also really having foresight. COVID will not last forever. It will be around for a while, but it's not going to last forever because it can't, our world together cannot sustain being in an eternal pandemic. So looking long-term, people are going to come out of it. They won't want those big office spaces. They will want small office spaces. The other thing about it is that people have lost jobs, and they are seeing this time as an opportunity to not just create, but really kind of foster and flourish their existing small businesses. Like I said, some of them have started doing so well, they have to get office space. Yeah. They have to at least get some sort of space. And they don't want the big spaces. They don't want the open, kind of WeWork.
Well, you must have read my mind, because that was the next thing I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
When you describe this model, and I know, but it's trying to help people to understand that this isn't WeWork, because the first thing that you hear is, oh yeah, that's WeWork and they fail, right? So the uniqueness of this that makes it not WeWork and that's making it successful, what would you say is that again? If we were just to capsulize that one little piece of it, what is that small difference that makes it more unique and successful than like a WeWork?
Well, and it's not a mega space. It's a small space, right? And they're small space, small offices, and they're far more affordable than WeWork. Yeah. And we're maximizing that square footage, minimizing the expense, making it affordable for the entrepreneur. And then it's a small building. So we're not, we're not checking out like 100 offices and that sort of thing. And then we're not having people sharing offices either. So that's one of the major differences.
Gotcha. So talk to me a little bit about the upside. Why this particular site? You mentioned about it being off the square and everything else, but is there any potential for upside growth in the future at this particular location? Yeah.
So one of the cool things about this deal, love working with Willie on it, because we got into a great negotiation price with the seller. And then Willie said, hold on just a second. Somebody else brought something to my attention. A former client actually looked at this. This was a different deal before. So we went back and researched the deal a little more. And the original offering, they were offering 2 buildings and an adjacent house. So the second building now was gone. It's raised. It was just an empty lot. So we're getting the lot with this deal, which was great. So getting a building, the 6,000 square foot building, and an empty lot, which was big enough to build on. But we also went back and renegotiated so that's another half an acre. We negotiated for the adjacent house, which was already zone commercial, on an additional half acre. So all in all, we're getting an acre and a half, a renovated building that's 80% complete, 40% leased up, a lot that's ready to go, buildable lot, and an additional half acre lot with a property zone commercial and a house that can be easily torn down to do another project. So that for me was win-win-win. That filled up my whole 2021, 2022 goals and objectives.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So looking at that, so you have the one building, you have the potential for building 2 more going forward in the future. What about revenue off of the existing site? Because you mentioned about this single family house that's there and there's land behind it. How could that generate revenue for you currently in order to help offset your debt service?
Right. So because it's zone commercial, we have an opportunity to, once the current tenant, decides kind of what she's going to do, or we kind of work it out with her, there's an opportunity to have that site be available for construction companies to actually, park trucks on. We've also kind of reached out and talked to car leasing spots, just a lot of different ways, not a lot, but, a few different ways we can generate income just for that lot and that house also construction companies that need, places to park equipment, not just like trucks and stuff, but just kind of maybe even function out of, maybe they don't have construction trucks. Maybe they just have, pickup trucks and they just want to store materials, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So additional opportunities for revenue there from that standpoint. That's fantastic. And then as regards the financing, you want to go into that a little bit as to how that all came together?
Oh, yeah. Well, that we can talk about it. I mean, one thing I appreciate about you, Joel, anybody that knows Joel's work, he's walked through this whole process with me. I've worked with Joel on a couple other deals, but there was never a time where I didn't have a question that he didn't have a term paper answer for me. I'd ask Joel one or two questions, and he'd give me a term paper text, but I know that I fully kind of really understood it at the time to be able to be comfortable enough to move forward. One of the things that we kind of talked about and laughed about was courage, right?
Yeah.
It's never been done before. Mm-hmm. And in your life, to get what you want, to get, where you want to go, you'll have a lot of never been done befores. So the financing for this deal, this has never been done before. I don't know what you want to highlight about it. It's just,
I was giving you the freedom to take it as far as you wanted to go. I think one of the main things that's worth mentioning is that at the end of the day, this wound up being a nothing down deal.
Oh, yeah.
You might say, well, how is that possible? But the way we structured it by means of the first mortgage, the senior debt on the financing on it, we negotiated with the seller in order to hold a second on the property. So that came into play as well. And then we negotiated with the first lien holder to set up an escrow account for all the repairs that are necessary for the property. So while Njeri did require a down payment, from that standpoint, all of that money basically comes back to her. And at the end of the day, her investment will be $0 in for the most part, because everything is covered in the financing of the deal, which is phenomenal. So what's your return if you're able to get into a deal with no money out your pocket?
I know, right? And Joel, you had to keep reminding me of that. I'm like, yeah, but I still got to bring money to the table. It's like, yeah, but you're getting all of it back. And so there's like no risk here. It's like, okay. Yeah, that is an infinite return.
Yeah.
An infinite return.
Yeah. So when you think about it, I mean, the thing about it is that there's a lot of times people hesitate to jump into things.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that? And the best thing is to just have the conversation. Have the conversation, figure out if there's a way to get it done. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But until you have that conversation, you don't know. And I will say this. I really wanted to have you as a guest today because, as I mentioned, and I mentioned this before, all of you got on the call, over the years, I've read a lot of books. People look around my office, they see all these books that I have. And one of the ones that I remember reading was about Don Peebles. And many people know him. He's one of the richest Black men in America at this point in time. And he started off as an appraiser. And I know many appraisers that don't have that kind of money, right? So it's like, what did he do in order to go from just being a real estate appraiser to being worth hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars? And oftentimes when you read that story, for the sake of it being a story, you miss those little nuances that took place day in and day out because so many years have passed that you don't get the full essence of the story. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, he did this and then he closed and then, he sold the building and he made this money. And it's like, okay, well, but what happened all in between those steps, right? And so one thing with you and Njeri is I wanted to have you on to kind of discuss that while it's fresh in both of our minds, really, what took place here and how did this all go down and how did it transpire? Because, if we're trying to lift everybody up, it serves as inspiration that anyone can do this, if you have the courage to do it, because there is some fear that's naturally there, becoming someone that you haven't been before.
There wasn't some fear, there was a lot of fear.
Absolutely.
Just straight up, there's a lot of fear going, okay, yeah. And it's in the middle of COVID, right? And for the most part, a lot of people I talk to are like, yeah, I'm not even leaving the house. I'm doing whatever I'm doing from inside of my house. I'm not leaving the house. I'm not talking to people. I'm not meeting people. So on top of my own personal, can I do this? Will this work? Will I fail? Will I succeed? To what degree will I succeed? Just all of that, all of those conversations that go on in the human mind. We're in COVID. Not just will I succeed or fail? Hell, will I survive this? And that's real. Like, it's just really real. But what was there for me was that I had a pivotal moment I want to share with everybody, because every day doing this deal is a holy cow moment. Going, whew, okay. And of course, by my 20th deal, I may have that holy cow moment, and hopefully that I still have that just edge of fear, so that keeps me, excited and engaged in it. But I was driving down 285, I was headed to do, something, and probably going to Costco. I passed by a funeral procession. And I was like, you know what? That's the real end game.
Yeah.
That's the real end game. We got a little bit of time here. And, COVID really kind of has exacerbated that for me. And I know a whole lot of other people. We got a little bit of time to have what we really want to have in this life and leave whatever legacy we plan to leave. I was with a group of entrepreneurs this weekend, and they were talking about their 3 and 5 year plan. Of course, they're 20, 30 years younger than me. I said, okay, but what legacy, what message do you want to leave here? And I know you're, 20s and 30s, you're not thinking about that, but there is that, and there is that opportunity. As everybody in commercial real estate, we're total trailblazers into creating a world that those coming up behind us get to live in. That's, absolutely amazing, because it's real wealth and real money that we are more than due. But I saw this funeral procession, and I just kind of would, respectfully nodded. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Soon. We don't know when. I don't know when, but it'll be soon. It is sometime. But until then, let me just go for it.
Yeah.
Just go for it. I don't know. There's a lot I don't know. There's a lot, that scares the ever loving hell out of me, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Because if I'm going to have it, I gotta move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very powerful point, and it's something to always reflect on. And you're right. When you're young, you're invincible, you're bulletproof, and you think you'll live forever, right?
Right.
And you tend to realize that, no, there is an end to this. And if you don't get going with your plans, you're going to run out of time. I mean, it's just that simple, So you got to keep going. And, and one thing that just really hits me also is you look at how, if you go back 20 years, some of the wealthiest people that are on this planet today were not even heard of 20 years ago. Nobody heard of a Jeff Bezos. Nobody heard of Robert Johnson. Nobody, all these different names. People never heard of these people, and now they're regular everyday names. Even Google and, Facebook and these guys. I mean, it's just one of those things. So why can't you be in that narrative? And what you have to realize is that, they're there now because of all the stuff they did when you didn't hear about them. Mm-hmm. The stuff you didn't know about that they were doing behind the curtain on the grassroots level that elevated them above the crowd. And so for yourself, it's always, and for all of us really, myself included, what are we doing at a grassroots level in order to make the next 10 years better than the present 10 years? Yeah. That's the work in progress that we always have to wake up and keep in mind every day. So.
Well, you said a key word is what's the doing. So what I had to do, like I said, I was talking to a group of entrepreneurs this weekend, and we, sharing about who we had to kill off, mm-hmm. right? Not like as in other people, but who we had to kill off kind of as our own identities. So for me, I had to kill off the little voice in my head that gave me all those reasons why not. Mm-hmm. All the, but yeah, I don't know. I had to that volume had to go down to 0. Yeah. Right. And I had to become a person that said, absolutely, no matter what, this will succeed and I will push forward. with all of the really, really good reasons I have not to do something or not to move forward, that I will do that and take action, just understanding you can have fear, you can have excuses, or you can have results, but you can't have both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes toward the point of also making sure you have a good team that's behind.
Oh, man, I have the best team. Yeah, like I said, Joel, you've been absolutely phenomenal, extremely patient, talking and walking me through all of this whole process. You fought for this deal, fought for the financing, fought for the opportunity, you fought for the structure. So great. Really, 20 calls a day, didn't matter how long, how many calls, what, we were doing, and, fought for the deal. The lender also involved. He was like, oh yeah, okay. No, he supports the deal, support me. Got my GC. This awesome opportunity too, because we're bringing in more REIT people. Amber Lawson from Aspire Construction, fantastic. So yeah, I got a great team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Amber because being part of REAP. I wish she was here today. She's probably out working somewhere doing something, but it's important, for all of us, even myself. When I go out and do deals, you try to surround yourself with people who have been down this road before.
Yeah,
because it alleviates some of the trepidation. You're still going to have your own anxiety and nervousness, but at least if you're working with somebody who's done this before, it makes it a little bit easier, to walk that pathway. So.
Yeah. One thing I kind of really got that, real estate is a family, and commercial real estate is even more of a family, because there's so much we have in common that we have to do and be and overcome to even get here. Yeah. Not to mention where we're going. And people told me that, wealth is a team sport. And I truly believe that, because we really will succeed together. And this is an opportunity to build an amazing, amazing community that, just revolutionizes how we are as a people. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Which is, again, that's kind of the whole idea behind even this morning podcast. The camaraderie and keeping everybody engaged. Like yourself, I'm sure we've been to so many seminars and webinars and this and that over the years. And, you walk away from it, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, do that, do this, do that. But with no engagement, nothing ever comes of it. It just becomes another course or whatever that you spend money on, and that's pretty much it. And so to be able to keep the family together, engaged, hear about each other's successes and what's being done to actually accomplish those things, and not in an environment of, well, I did this and I'm not going to share what I got. You need to figure it out on your own. And you get sick and tired of that. It's like, look, if you're really all about helping other people, then share what you know. Help me, make that phone call, introduce me to that person, do this, do that, if you're really all about it. If it's all about you and how great you are, then you don't really need to be part of this. And I think we run across that too often, where it's all about, I figured it out, you go figure it out. And that's just a very bad way to be toward people. And so, and I invite any of y'all on the call here today, if you know of people that can bring value to this podcast or value to the rest of the week by helping to share thoughts and ideas and insights on how people are being successful in commercial real estate, bring them to my attention. I'm happy to bring them on. Even our guest last week, well, actually, we had technical difficulties last week, but the week before, we had Zalika Frazier on the call, who also is a REIT grad. Phenomenal information about low-income housing tax credits and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
It was incredible. So that's what this is all about. It's all about helping each other. Nobody knows everything, and no success is made in a silo. Everybody works together to accomplish things, and we need the support of each other to get things done. So,
yeah.
It's a problem.
One thing about this deal I want to make sure we don't forget to mention was, and part of the structure too, is take with this office deal, taking this is an office, but I know another lady was working on salon suites, but getting it completely leased up and then refinancing it, right? Because we're buying at such a low point of entry, and then really taking these small offices, even at the low price point, still bringing in great revenue, and then being able to refinance in 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And then driving up the equity on the property. What did we say? It was like 200%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 200% to be able to cash out, and we'll use that part of that for the next. So, like I said, we'll raise that house, and then we'll combine that acre lot to do phase 2 of this whole project. It was a little bit of a plot change. Instead of doing 2 buildings, we're actually going to do 1 larger building going forward. But this time we were actually able to do this deal without including other people. But the next time, or this next phase coming up, and we're going to actually start now, is actually bringing in other people to give them the opportunity, one, to learn about this business and this model and structure, but give them an opportunity to invest and recoup their money, get a nice percentage off of just being a passive investor, but learning wealth building in the middle of it. Some people kind of already have, and they'll invest at a higher rate, but other people, who want to learn about it, will have an opportunity to be involved as well.
Yeah. No, that's a powerful thing. We're actually working on a project down in Jackson, Mississippi as well. It's starting to get some press in the media around it, and that's part of the idea behind it, is taking some of the local people as we build this tech community and allowing them to invest and benefit from the development that's in these urban areas. Many people talk about the tax credits and the advantages of doing these opportunity zones and whatnot, and they were good. But the point is that do the people in the community really benefit from it, from a monetary standpoint? Or is it one rich developer coming in with his cronies and they're making all the money and then leaving, and all you really get out of it is a nice new apartment to rent? Right? So, being part of the game where the money is really being made is so much more valuable, and understanding how it's being made and participating in that is really of value. So we're trying to spread that around and get everybody in the game. So, hopefully this will be the start of some great things. And I appreciate you sharing that, the idea of how you want to do it and get other people involved as well so they can benefit. So I think that's a great thing. So, again, as we wrap up this call, that was pretty much the idea behind it. We wanted to talk about how at a grassroots level, these deals are getting done, how they're turning into productive opportunities, and, kind of see the steps that actually take place along the way. And then we'll follow this journey. With Njeri, we're going to follow your journey and make sure that it turns out successful, so we have a good story to tell.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have some media along the way, and you can follow me on Facebook, Skyrise Property Group, and follow me on Instagram, and Njeri Warfield on Instagram, and because we'll be posting, and Aspire will be posting as well. Aspire Construction and Real Estate Design should be posting as well, so you kind of keep track of what's going on, and of course, Joel will have this full story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see, we got a text from William. So let's take a couple of questions real quick.
Hey, yay!
Yeah, William down here in Dallas, 2019 class.
Cool.
New investor looking for my first deal. How do you pick a passive investor to partner with so that they can learn?
What value? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll run this down, pretty quick. One, big ups for Dallas people, Cowboys fan, raised in Austin, Texas, and all my family's in Dallas. So very cool. And you went to REAP the same time I did. So picking a passive, you're looking for an investor, picking a passive investor. So your passive investor is going to be somebody that you have understanding that they're going to be a passive investor. Like, you want to set your parameters around their level of involvement and be very clear about that just from the get-go. It's like, here's what you'll be able to say, and here's the influence that you'll have, and here's what you won't be able to say. Like, you're going to contribute your money. This is your risk. This is your anticipated return. And we're going to give you pictures and updates about the project on a regular basis, agree with them as monthly or weekly on how often you want to deliver those results, those updates to them. but you also really want to give them the opportunity to evaluate their own finances. Do you want to take somebody's last $20,000? Absolutely not. Okay. So, in evaluating a past investor, you really want to have somebody who is very clear. You want to be able to look at their tax returns, have them share their business tax returns, get a statement from their CPA if they have a CPA. That's going to be really important. But and then you want to make sure that you only have them invest a certain percentage and a very safe percentage of their disposable or investable savings. Of that kind of, yeah. And you said, what value do you need them to bring to you? You need them to not be on your neck every 5 minutes about your project. The value that they can bring, if they have some expertise in maybe one of the types of models that you're investing in, that can help a lot. If they have some other contacts or resources that can also be a benefit to you as far as being other investors. So if they have contacts with other investors, that also can bring value. But what you really want, is support somebody who's got a little bit of knowledge in what they're doing. If they don't, you need to educate them. That'll be the major thing. Educating their investor on what kind of project you're doing, the ins and outs of it, how it could work, how it could fail. And so they know exactly what they're doing. Like they can bring value to you by you bringing value to them and having a full understanding what your relationship is going to look like.
I thought that was very good. Actually, you hit the nail on the head on that last part, because one of the worst things you talk about picking an investor, you might have somebody that has all the money in the world, but if they don't understand real estate and they're going to be calling you every 5 minutes, what about this? Is my money still safe? Or I saw another deal. Can I get my money back? And I just gave it to you a week ago. I mean, you ain't got time for that, and if you're trying to build and develop a team to build projects and do multiple deals, you need somebody that has to understand that they're in it for the long haul and that they're not just there to jump in and jump out and are there to support you, and then as Njeri said, especially someone that understands real estate so that they can maybe bring other resources to the table that you might not have would be of value as well. So even with Njeri, that was the whole idea. Let's build a team around her that can help her be successful in this endeavor. And, it looks like we accomplished that. So
yeah,
that would be the recommendation.
All money ain't good money. Yeah. I've been on some projects and people have thrown cash and I'm like, you know what? If you guys can't justify that, that's going to come back and bite you. And I don't want to be around.
Yep.
The reason why I had asked the question is because two of my cousins and I, we recently formed our LLC and we're all looking to put up anywhere from 20 to 30K and, invest in, we've kind of focused on, or we're looking at residential, but we're open to commercial real estate as well. So the reason why I had asked that question, as somebody who doesn't have all the experience, but is wanting to kind of learn how, you all are finding these deals, how you're structuring the deals to kind of eventually build out my own portfolio. Obviously I don't investing with somebody who's experienced, I wouldn't be worried about my money. One, I'm not accredited, but I wouldn't be worried about it. But I probably would be an individual that would be open-minded to learning and have a lot of those questions. So that was kind of the basis of the question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you might consider just a different structure for that. Yeah, being a non-accredited investor, it's more of a riskier situation, right? So you either want to consider leveraging, other ways to leverage your investment, not just bringing, a couple of your cousins on, but bringing more people on so that you're actually having a smaller cash outlay, or you and your principals would be your cousins. So you've got a smaller cash outlay and you want to bring in maybe even an outside lender who also has experience, but more capital. Just a thought.
Yeah. Okay. And there's more to it that, we could even talk about offline.
I'd say definitely give Joel a call.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, in all seriousness, even like this deal in Jackson, the fact that we have an SEC approved Reg A plus approval with the SEC allows us to raise unaccredited dollars from individuals. So, that could be a real good way to go, because everybody's chasing the accredited investors. And the reason why is most people don't want the non-accredited investors because they feel they don't understand money and real estate. And, like Njeri said, you don't want to take somebody's last $20,000. But I think there's a safe blend that you can find there between the two. That would be beneficial. So, but it's something that can be talked about certainly more offline, if you have something you want to go over in detail. So that'll be fine.
Yeah. What's the best way to contact you two? Because I don't want to derail this conversation, I guess, offline.
You want to just have them get it from Deneen and Njeri, or you got the whole database, right? Do you want to send out our contact info?
Oh, yeah. I don't mind. Yeah. You can just...
Yeah. Can we do that after the call?
Yeah.
Do you get that? Okay. All right. You got William's email and information?
I don't.
I tell you what, Will, put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll just record it there.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. Well, appreciate that. Believe it or not, we are at 58 minutes on this call. So that was a beautiful thing. So I appreciate everyone coming in today, and we appreciate you being here, Will, and participating in the conversation. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. And Njeri, we want special thanks to you for agreeing to do this and sharing your story. We certainly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's important for everybody to kind of see at a grassroots level how this happened. So when we look at you 10 to 15 years from now, they're like, Njeri, how'd you do it? Hey, this is how she did it, right? We'll be able to play the tape back. Let me show you how she did it. Let's play the tape. So, yeah, so it's all good stuff. So, everyone, we thank you very much for joining the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. And next week, we'll be here as well at 10 a.m. We'll be talking about, believe it or not, a topic that it was requested by multiple guests, and that was about insurance. So, to me, it's a subject that I would never think to have a podcast on, but if everybody wants it, that's what we're going to do. So, we'll be covering that subject. And there's a lot of very, very valuable information related to insuring your project properly to make sure that things take place the way they need to take place, especially in a crisis. So we look forward to that and look forward to everybody participating. So thanks so much again, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Appreciate you. All right. Take care, everybody.
You've been listening to Mornings with Joel, commercial real estate podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace. Please check back weekly to hear our upcoming guests.